Alright, in today's episode we finish off the Americas Pavilion once and for all by adding the reptile room or the insects room, as well as a small enclosure for the Cuvier's Dwarf Caiman. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Oakwood Zoo, and another episode of the Americas Pavilion. I am very tired in making this voiceover, so excuse me if this is a bit of like a shorter voiceover portion, because I am very exhausted. But in today's episode, we will be building the enclosure for the Cuvier's Dwarf Caiman, as well as a few like things for exhibit animals, which is like technically the first time we've built for exhibit animals in the zoo, at least as far as I can think of. I really don't know. So obviously the Cuvier's Dwarf Caiman is the main part. This is a pretty small episode in terms of like length and amount of stuff to actually build. This is almost like a filler episode because, first of all, at the time of recording this, I am, like I said, I'm going on a trip for 2 weeks, so I won't be here with my equipment. But I am recording this currently and finishing the build currently the day before I leave, or technically the 2 days before I leave. So I'm very short on time because I'm scheduling all of the videos well before I've left. I try not to take my stuff with me, even just like my laptop or whatever for editing when I go on trips and stuff, because I just don't really want it to be like in the way, and I also don't want to worry about losing it, so I just kind of leave it. I like to get everything done beforehand so I don't have to worry about it after. But anyway, so let's actually talk about the enclosure here in this like kind of room. So really just designing a singular room of the enclosure. Again, the entire outside of the house is done. We've done capybaras, flamingos, and tapirs. The big icons of the house are now done and fulfilled. Now we are down to the little kind of filler room, which is like that gap between the capybara room, because it looks really cool now the way you go through it. It feels very short when you go through the house, but it's also kind of like, it's very interesting because it feels like you're just going like in different, like you're really feeling like you're going into the different parts of the jungle, because you start out in like if you start in the capybara room and you go straight through, then you go left, and then you go to this room, which is brown, which is a different color. The capybaras are green. This room is brown in the walls, and then the Saki room, which is the last room, is light blue. So it's really cool. I love that when houses do that way, like the different bright colors on the walls, because it looks pretty nice. So you go through all those 3 different things, then you come back to the entrance. Again, it's pretty short with how you go through it, but I'm honestly fine with that because there's a lot of stuff. There's a lot of hidden details, like in like the exhibit windows we're building here. It was really challenging to actually format this room correctly because it's such an enclosed space, and it was such a weirdly shaped space that it was hard for me to actually find out like how to make the room work with like how to give the caimans enough space. Obviously the enclosure is not enough space for the traversable area of the caimans. I was never going to win with that no matter how much I make them, like how much the room I give them, because the house is just simply not big enough. And I did want to create a caiman enclosure in this because I didn't really have anywhere else to put the caimans. So it's not big enough in any like going to the game standards, but for like a zoo, just having one of them as like a rescue, or just like, I don't know, getting from an illegal pet or whatever from someone to like come just like a singular caiman, I think it would probably be realistic to what you would see in a zoo. It's pretty decently big. You have a nice water pond, and then you just have a few little rock formations. It was kind of challenging to actually make the caiman work with a traversable area because again, it's a decently small section, but overall I think it worked. The exhibit hall actually worked pretty nicely. I even had room later on to add more exhibit boxes. So I started with that hallway kind of thing of like 5-ish exhibit windows, which is, it's really 2 exhibit boxes, one of which is the boa constrictor, I believe, and the other is the bullfrogs, which you cannot see the boa constrictors at all because one of the things is like up top. So I tried to obviously do that classic thing where zoos do, where it's like you have a bunch of different windows in different areas. So you have one really up high, so you have to like stretch up to see that, and then you have one down low, and then you have one really long one. So I really tried to do that, and I really love doing that because that's so fun to like play with the shapes and stuff and make it look cool. That's one of my all-time favorite things to do, especially with like exhibit animals. That's the one little highlight for me of making exhibit animal like areas, is that you get to play with the windows and stuff and make them look not as big as they actually are, because I never really like using the exhibit boxes because the exhibit boxes are ridiculous in size. So it's obviously like pretty nice and pretty fun to play with like shaping the windows and making them look like they're not really that big, which I think looks really well and a lot more realistic. As well as this, I also made a kind of tank kind of thing. I got inspired by my local zoo that does this, and it's like a really cool, they have like an interesting like tank, which is not like a fish tank where it's like, or like a giant aquarium tank where it's like all the way to the top where you can't, like where it's a tank. It's actually a pond kind of thing where you can, if you wanted to, you could stick your fingers in or stick your hand in, but it's strongly recommended you don't. So nobody does, and it has a really giant fish in it. Obviously we don't have fish, so that's a bit of a problem. But I used some of the prop fish that I used in the giant otter house and those aquariums, and I used that in here. I would personally use like maybe like a different kind of fish, and I could surf the Steam Workshop to find unique fish or whatever, but frankly I did not really have the interest in that, so I just used the fish that we already used in the giant otter house, and I think that turned out pretty nicely. It's just something nice to fill that corner up. I didn't want to give too much like walking space, and I also didn't want to use just too many planters because I already had a planter against like the wall, that exhibit wall when you get to the end. So it is a bunch you have a couple dead ends in this area. You have one with the exhibit hall, so you go down, you look at the windows, and then you come back. And then there's also one at the Cayman viewing where it's like you have this one really long window, and then you have another long window on the side, which you go down and then you come back. So there's, again, this is like another thing where like a bunch of small details to look at. It looks pretty cool. And I think I'm pretty overall happy with how this turned out. Obviously, it's probably the weakest room in this building in terms of like detail and design, because again, probably the Saki enclosure was definitely the most detailed build of all this, as well as if we're not counting ones that are in the pavilion that are also really close by. I would also say the flamingo and the capybara enclosures were pretty tough to build. Mainly the flamingo one, mostly because the flamingo enclosure was pretty unique. The tapir and the capybara were pretty similar in how you build for them, especially because they already had the boardwalk stuff, so it's just copying and pasting that flooring and making it work again to like what it needs to be. But the flamingo enclosure, I actually had to play around with like the different pools and like the foraging pond, making that pretty interesting, adding the fencing, and also that entire backstage building, which is it's not that big, but it is very detailed on the inside, which took quite a bit of time. So that is my story on that. Anyway, so yeah, I think this is probably the less detailed room of the building, but I think I honestly had a decent amount of fun actually building it. It was a mix of using stuff that I've already used before, using that kind of stuff, but also just having fun with like how I shaped the room and like how you walk through it, because I think that's honestly pretty fun. I also did a backstage area for the capybaras, which is also connected to the Caiman, so I just connected that. Again, it's not really the most realistic thing. You would probably have some sort of backstage for these guys, whether it's like, I don't know, a room with like a bunch of cages in case of like vet procedures or stuff like that, but I didn't have the room for that, and I didn't really want to mess anything up and like do anything extra. Definitely did not want to like change the shape of the house, because that is untouchable. That is just something that I don't really want to touch ever. I'm okay with doing it to like the desert house, because that is something I can just like push back the walls and make it even larger. But with this, it's just messing with a bunch of things that I would have to change. That like if it's like a domino effect. If I move one of the walls and give them more space, or make more space inside, then I have to change the outside because it could be cutting into the boardwalk and the foliage, and it's just, I don't want to deal with that. So I left it as it is, and I think overall it turned out pretty fine. Again, not everyone is happy as they would if we were playing without our animal comfort off, but I think overall it's fine, and it's decently realistic what you would see in a real zoo. Again, not all zoos have this luxury of space that Planet Zoo Tourist Play Area have. So I think that in realistic terms, I think it works out pretty well. Anyway, I think that's honestly pretty much it for what I have to say. I don't really have a lot to say about anything else like future plans or anything. DLC stuff, we got nothing. And probably either waiting until fall, which we could see another one, or until next year, which again, I believe that we're just waiting until Planet Zoo 2. It might be an unpopular opinion, I don't really know. Because I feel like this fall we're going to be seeing Planet Coaster 2 DLC, and we're also going to be seeing Jurassic World Evolution 3 launch, obviously, in October, and I feel like they have to do a DLC maybe in like December or something. And I feel like what's really going to drive people to get the game is that they introduce in a pack the rebirth species. The species from the movie, you get the D-Rex, the new Spinosaurus, the new T-Rex, new Quetzalcoatlus, Titanosaurus, etc. Also saw the movie and it was amazing, by the way. I was very impressed. I was just having a good time with it. I was honestly kind of thinking of making a couple of videos off of the movie, like what I would pitch for the next one, or like how I would fix the current one, or like the new one, but I don't know. I'm seeing it again in August, so I guess I will see if my feelings change on it. But anyway, this is not a Jurassic World video, so let's get back to the actual topic of discussion, which is the enclosure. And on that note, I think I really don't have anything else to add. I know I promised a tour there at the zoo, and I know I have been delaying this constantly, and I'm gonna have to delay it a bit more. At the time of recording this, the pavilion is like basically done, and that was what I mainly wanted to complete for the tour. So now, when I get back, I will immediately, the first thing is I will record a progress tour, which is great because then I plan to do another ranking video on that week that I got back to schedule it for, but I did not get to that because I'm busy with a bunch of other things. So I unfortunately did not get to that, but instead I will be able to come home, record a tour, and then upload it, which is pretty easy on my part compared to some other videos. Like the ranking videos take a while to make, so I'd rather not dip my toes into that a lot. Yeah, so future plans I will probably save until that video because I have a lot to go over, and I will reveal the project that I'll be working on in Oakwood Zoo in August. Very excited for it, and I want to see how it actually turns out. And yeah, I hope you all have enjoyed it. I think that's really much it for all I have to say. I hope you all have enjoyed this episode, and again, cinematic shots at the end, of course. The next episode in this series will be the progress tour, and then that will entail what is left for future episodes. We will probably have to finish up South America, of course, still, but then I'll reveal the next big thing in that tour episode. But for now, I hope you all have enjoyed. If you did enjoy this video, if you enjoyed past videos and you haven't realized, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button because it means a lot to me. Leave a nice comment down below what you like about the America's Pavilion or just the specific enclosure. I hope you all have enjoyed, and I will see you all in the next one. Enjoy the rest of the video. Bye guys, have a great rest of your day.